Yes, we would love to speak to this. I'm Yeshua ben Joseph, the one you know as the Christ. I am your brother. I am your friend. I have taught you the simple way of life, and the simple way of freedom and abundance. It is there in my words in red. But you must have new eyes. If you have read these words before, you must allow the scales of religion to fall from your eyes, and you must sit in my presence with these words and allow my presence and the emanation of my consciousness to reveal to you what these words really mean for you. And then I would say to you,
my guest today is Anjie Hipple, who is a channeler of the Judah Collective, which is a group of about 350,000 angelic enlightened beings who are an embodiment of Christ consciousness. And on the consciousness scale, they rate at about a 5,000. So to say that this is going to be an enlightened conversation is probably an understatement. And as a result of this being such a powerful collective, Angie's videos have over 1 million followers, and I feel so blessed to be able to have a conversation with her and the collective. And if we're lucky enough, we may even do a channeling. So Angie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness. Before we even start talking about the collective, I actually want to talk about the consciousness scale because I want people to get a flavor, if they've never heard of this before, for what this means and how this scale works, because it's not an arbitrary scale, it's a scientific scale. So can you speak to it just a little bit?
Sure. Well, Dr. David Hawkins was an enlightened being who's passed over now. And he spent the last 30 years or so of his life scientifically researching consciousness through kinesiology. And I am a deep aspirant or student of his work. I study it consciously. When you can through certain skills that you can learn, you can determine the level of consciousness of any person, place, thing, business, organization, product, animal, book you're reading, video you're watching, channel or you're listening to. And doing this gives you an instant window. It's not a judgment at all. It's just knowing, being aware of what is the consciousness level of this thing or person or situation, and is it going to add to my life? Is it going to increase my level of consciousness, expand me towards enlightenment, or is it consuming my life? Is it taking away from, my expansion? Is it a downer, so to speak? And so Judah calibrates in this 5,000 range. We also work with Archangel Michael quite a bit, who is kind of like Judah's boss. And Michael calibrates in all other archangels in the 150,000 range of consciousness. And so I'm just inviting Archangel Michael in as we speak. So for anybody who's not familiar with this scale, you can find it really easily by Googling it. If you think of 0 as being, completely unconscious, unaware, living in total despair, suicidal, survival paradigm, and 1,000 being the level of consciousness of the Jesuses and the Buddhas and the Krishnas of history. And so we know through research that when a person gets around this 1,000 mark, if they're sustaining that level of consciousness consistently, their physical body really is not conducive to that level of vibration. And also the soul usually wants to go ahead and vacate. As a matter of fact, most people over the level of 600, I'm sorry, not most people, 50% of people, when they hit 600, which is the beginning of enlightenment, when they hit that level of consciousness and they're able to sustainably keep that level of consciousness consciousness, 50% of them leave the body. So there aren't lots of people on the planet over this 600 to 1,000 range, but that number is increasing all the time. I do meet people and work with people that are in these highly enlightened ranges. Some of them are people we know absolutely nothing about. They're not even in quote unquote spiritual work, but they just their presence and who they are, just them breathing in and out, doing the dishes, doing their work, just being who they are is really transformative to the planet. It can cancel out the negative energies and despair of tens or even hundreds of thousands of people. So level of consciousness really matters. And one of the skills that we love to teach people at the Judah channel is how to get a specific number of the level of consciousness of different people, places, things, ideas, political parties, and so on, in order to begin to understand how to elevate consciousness and to change that.
So is there like a test or a quiz or something that we can take to give us an idea of where we live on that scale?
Absolutely. I have a free chart, and I don't know, are we able to share charts?
Yeah, go for
Okay,
it.
let me do that. So
You
I have this free chart on my website, thejudahchannel.com. Please, stop by and download it. And you can look at this chart and almost immediately determine where you are. So everyone has what I will call a floor to their level of consciousness and a ceiling. And in spiritual work, the goal is to move that both the floor and the ceiling up. So let me give you a little metaphor to help understand this. So let's say we all have a thermostat on our wall at home. We set it to the temperature that feels comfortable to us. So it can be super cold outside, freezing cold, or burning hot, but inside we'll kind of we'll keep gravitating back to that set point. So all of us have an emotional set point, which is our level of consciousness. So to give you an example, like before my awakening, my emotional set point was sad and depressed. There are a lot of reasons for that. But I could get my master's degree, I could get a great new job, I could have another baby, a new love of my life. And I could be happy for a while, but I would eventually gravitate back to that set point of sad. And that was I was in the red ray. I'm a victim. Life is doing things to me. I can't, I lack, I suffer. And a lot of fear as well. I spent a lot of time in the orange ray, of feeling afraid and feeling like I needed to fix or change or add something to who I was, or take away something to who I was from who I was in order to be okay. And 85% of people in the world live in either this red, orange, or yellow ray. In the yellow ray, we start waking up. And you see on the chart there it says awakening begins. We start waking up, we realize, oh crap, I've been giving my power away to religion. I've been giving my power away to my spouse. I've been giving my power away to, ideologies and to materialism. Whatever it is that we've given up, we have adapted. When we're children, we adapt ourselves to our situations because we have to. We don't get to divorce our parents. We don't get to divorce our school teachers, our friends. We're stuck with whatever, we've been given. But as we grow up and begin to take responsibility for our life, which, by the way, I think is, for me, it is the primary spiritual task of enlightenment, is taking 100% responsibility for everything that I think, feel, and do, understanding I'm creating everything in my reality. So when we have this awakening, we may begin to even feel angry because we've given up our power to these things. Some people feel a little bit alarmed when they start awakening. They're like, what's wrong with me? Why am I so angry all the time? Well, it's because that's a part of the yellow ray task, right? Is the anger gives us the energy to reclaim who we are, the real us, because we wake up to the fact that we've adapted ourselves to get along, go along to get along, and so on. So, in this awakening, the goal is to get us in this heart space, right? Where our emotional set point, our thermostat is set to love, 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 unconditional love, always loving. You can do stuff to me, you cannot do stuff to me, I'm still going to love you. And this is a level of consciousness that we can actually grow into. So the work that we're always doing with Judah, the Judah angels, and the high wisdom is to elevate our floor, the floor of our consciousness into that green space so that we are consistently, sustainably living in this unconditional love. And yeah, we might have moments where we're fearful, moments where we're angry, but we will just quickly gravitate right back to that love space. And what happens then when we do that is also our ceiling of our consciousness is being raised simultaneously. And so people that get into this green ray might suddenly begin to have visits from angels or ETs, or have, their clairsentient, claircognizant gifts start opening up. They just start to know certain things, to see or understand certain things. Like I remember years ago, dreaming that I saw a newspaper and it said Princess Di is dead, and then it was many years later before she actually passed away. So we all have the capacity or the software in our own inner being. This is my belief, to be fully claircognizant, clairsentient, clairolfactory, have all these gifts open. And we all have the ability to channel our higher self and angels and be connected to beings in the unseen realm.
Wow. That is so much information for people to take in. And I think it's a great place for people to start. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even talked about what the Judah Channel Collective is and how you're working with them. So you're along in your life, you mentioned that you were in the state of depression. And even though you were in that place, you were able to get an amazing job. You were able to connect and find the love of your life, but yet you had not yet awakened to what this was. So Angie, what in the world happened?
Well, I was raised in fundamentalist Christianity. My father, in my middle school years, became a pastor of the Jerry Falwell type of
Oh,
environment and world.
interesting.
Yeah, and I had been raised in that, so that was my worldview, and there were some real, true, authentic connections that I had on a personal level with God, which for me now is an infinite field of energy and possibility. There were some real connections there. Also, I think real connections with angels. Sometimes I would see white mist or clouds come in the room when I was a little girl. But there was a lot of heavy indoctrination. There was a lot of fear, a lot of control. And it was really damaging, but I didn't know it because that was literally all that I knew. And so I raised my children in fundamentalist Christianity as well. When I was in my mid 40s, things started unraveling for me. My father died. I inherited his business, which some of my family was supported by my children and grandchildren, my mom, and so on. There was embezzlement going on right away. Even before my dad was in the ground, his partner was stealing, and there's just a lot of craziness and insanity going on. And I was also teaching school. I was working full time, mom of three kids, teens, and also my Christian community. I had been like the Hillsong worship leader, if you're familiar with any of that. But I had been a worship leader in mega churches for many years, and a women's conference speaker and all that. So I was heavily, invested in my life as a Christian woman.
This was your identity, it sounds like.
Absolutely, absolutely. Every cell of me was sold on my relationship with Christ and all my friendships. I worked for a small Christian school. All of my friends, my husband, my kids. So when my dad died, and all these things went down, I had been the facade was kind of cracking for a while because I was very depressed. I had been depressed off and on since I was 16, and there are reasons for that I understand now. Basically I was given a diagnosis many years later after my awakening of chronic PTSD due to religious trauma and narcissistic abuse.
Oh, interesting. I've never even heard of a diagnosis like that before.
Yeah, actually, religious trauma syndrome is a new addition to the DSM now.
Interesting. Well, I'm not really surprised because that can evoke a lot of fear and a lot
Sure.
of, yeah, a lot of things, shame, guilt, all kinds of.
Sure, sure. And so, and I had, and my husband of 27 years, who was the father of my children and also a very wonderful man in many, many ways, but he was an alcoholic and abusive, a rager and a abuser in that way, abused with rage, not with physical things. And so, when you're in that kind of religious environment, you're taught to love, you're taught to forgive.
You're
Um,
also taught that the man is the head of the household and everything that he
right.
says goes.
Yep. Yep. So a fun little fact that some of your friends might appreciate. I had started Breaking Bad a little before my dad died, a couple of years before. I had started doing small things like listening to NPR. That was like,
You're like, you're not allowed to do that.
yeah,
Did you
no,
did you
no, no, no.
sneak in a Harry Potter movie?
Oh, yeah. Like I was the mother that did not allow my poor kids, did not allow them to bring home my poor son would sneak home the Harry Potter book from school. And if I found it, I would make him take it back very lovingly and calmly, but didn't let him read it. No. So I actually bought him a copy of Harry Potter
I
when
think
he
it's funny
was
that we're
grown.
talking about this because about that time I was at the Baptist church and I was starting to not be able to connect with this whole wrath of God thing. It wasn't
Yeah.
matching for me. And I had read the Harry Potter books and that movie was coming out and my kids had read them and we were going to go see it. And the church was like, if you take your kids to this movie, you are
Yeah.
going, it's of the devil. And I was like, I'm out. I never went
Yeah. Good
back.
for
That
you.
was it. That was it for me. I'm
Yeah.
like, you're not
So,
going to tell
see,
me
I
what I'm going
love
to watch.
Oh, yeah. But see, I love that you had that within you. I didn't have that because I'd been beaten out
And
of
I
the
had like been
very
at the church
beginning.
for a couple of years, so it's not like I'd
Yeah.
been there. I didn't have this long thing that you did, but
Yeah.
still, I think it's just kind of a funny coincidence that we both had kind of a similar thing right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I had started breaking bad on some things and my body, so, when you live with this kind of garbage, mental garbage and emotional distress for a really long time, it starts to take its toll on you. Um, and I had my son had gotten involved with drugs and was really having a hard time, and we had sent him to a Christian kind of boot camp for troubled boys. And I was brokenhearted over it. And I got sick during that time. And I had been sick for 9 months. I was teaching school every day. I was dragging myself to school, sick as a dog. A friend, and I want to share this because this story is really important. It was just a moment in time, just a minute, just two at my son's school. But I want to share it because I want to say to your listeners, you can say one thing to one person in one moment of time that can change the entire history of their life. And I was standing in the foyer of the school where I taught, and one of the moms of one of my students, she stopped me. She said, "Are you okay?" She said, "You don't look like you feel good." And I said to her, "No, I don't. I've been sick for 9 months. I've seen all the doctors, bada, bada, bada." She said, "You've got to go see this man named Chuck Hipple, and he
Well, I'm
will
guessing
heal
since your
you.
last name is Hipple.
Yes, he will heal you." So, Chuck was an acupuncturist. Well, I thought, acupuncture would be a quick trip to like demonic possession. This had been impressed on me that this was a quick way to pick up demons, yoga classes, acupuncture, crystals, going in a new age bookshop, anything like that. But I was so desperate because I'd been sick for 9 months that I went. So this woman changed the history of my life. She
She
changed
sure
everything.
did.
Just, that one moment of connecting someone, like some of you have this natural gift of networking. And you're like, I don't know why, but you just need to meet this person, or I don't know why you need to watch this video, or check out this Laurie's podcast, or you don't know how you can change someone's life with that. So I started going for acupuncture, and it was a whole head trip for me because while I would lay on the table with the needles in me, I would start going into this state of bliss. And the only thing I could that I had any reference for to compare it to was some of the like high times of corporate worship where there's thousands of people singing and you just feel like you're coming up out of your chair, it's just so beautiful. It felt similar to that and it was freaking me out. And I would go home and take my Bible and like flip through it and try to figure out what has this man done to me? Is he doing witchcraft on me? Why am I feeling so great? What is this bliss feeling? Could this be God? Because it feels like the Holy Spirit, but I'm so confused. So I kept going back. And for 2 years, I was getting this acupuncture. Well, first of all, I was immediately healed. And I kept having this blissful experience. And so Chuck said to me, well, he's just being a professional. He said, well, I think you're all well now. I don't think you need to come. Maybe you can come back once a month for maintenance. I'm like, no, I can't stop coming. I knew I was being transformed by what was going on. And he said, well, do you want to try spiritual acupuncture? And I was like, yes. Yes, let's do that. I didn't even know what it was, but I was really opening up. So I'd been a couple of years of this when my dad died, and then I just broke wide open and I just found the courage to get out of the Christian church, get out. I left my husband, I left my job, at the Christian school. I left my church family, my whole spiritual community, which was all of my friends, all of them. I literally only have 2 friends left from my whole span, my lifetime of serving in the Christian church. And both of them are kind of scared of me, but they're at least willing to still connect. And I started over.
Well, Angie, I have to ask before you go on, what about your kids? Because you had taught your kids to believe all of this, and now all of a sudden you're not, which I think is a big fear of a lot of people when they leave the church. I've had several of these conversations.
Sure. Well, fortunately, my kids didn't have a huge buy-in like I did. And also, even though my kids had been raised in church, I still had my higher self was still resonant and there was still some wisdom there that I wouldn't push them or control them with it. As they got older, I began to be a lot more hands off. And so, they were really happy for me. Well, they had some hard times with it. They were older. My youngest, when I chose to leave, she was 16, but
Okay.
my other 2 were older. One was already out of the home and having kids, and my son
I
went
see.
with his dad. So yeah, there was definitely some fallout from it. It wasn't all easy, but over time they were incredibly supportive.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot with that question, and I
No, not at
realized as
all.
soon as I asked it, I could have, but I'm glad you shared that because again, it's all about eliminating fear. How is this person doing it? How is that person doing it? And I
Mhm.
think that as people are beginning to wake up, they are now having to grapple with some of these things that you're talking about. You have to
Yeah.
destroy sometimes you blow up your whole life because everything was ingrained in the doctrine that you believed. So I guess I'm going to ask you this question before we even start talking about more about the collective, because I just think it's important to understand. So there's a lot of things that I think about any religion that are amazing. The
Mhm.
love of God at the core of it. A lot of the teachings of Jesus about love and,
Mhm.
treat your neighbor as if it's yourself and honor God. And all of those things are wonderful. But then there's a lot of things that I can't buy into. Hell,
Right.
demons, devil, like what you can and can't do, the way that sin works, and all of these other things. And so I'm curious to know what part of the doctrine you actually kept that still resonated with you.
Yeah. Well, I would encourage anybody that resonates on some level with what I'm sharing to set aside for a time all preaching, all teaching, all the religious stuff, and allow yourself to kind of thaw out a little bit and then go and unpack it for yourself and decide what you really think and believe. I have channeled Jesus on many occasions since I entered in my channeling life, and and some of those channels are out there. But one of the first things Jesus said to me when I channeled Jesus was, "Don't worship me." Don't worship
Yes.
me. And, and also almost every time, not always, but when I channel Jesus, and there'll be one coming out soon on Next Level Soul where I channel Jesus, he says very clearly how disappointed and how angry he is about how deeply he is represented in the earth. So if
It
you
makes me want to cry hearing you say that. It makes me super emotional because I have also like what you're saying come to believe over a long period of time that things were so misconstrued, and I don't think he ever told anybody that they were supposed to, he was the only way. That wasn't the message. The message was like, I am, you are, we all are, not like put me on a pedestal.
Yeah, and if you it, even going back to like Hawkins, right? If we calibrate the levels of consciousness, if you calibrate the levels of consciousness of different books in the Bible, some of them are really, really, really low. They're way down in that red ray. And then there are others like the words of Jesus, which rank really high in their level of consciousness. So beginning to discern, right, with if something makes you, but Jesus never mentioned the word hell. Never, never, never. He mentioned the word Gehenna once, which has been misinterpreted as hell. And that word, he was actually referring to Gehenna was actually a trash dump. It was like the city dump outside of Jerusalem. And he was basically saying, if you're going to do these things, these certain things, go ahead and do them, but you're going to end up, your life's going to end up on the trash dump. But he wasn't saying, he never said that there was a hell where people would burn in eternity. And also, just understanding that like when Jesus was on the earth, he was speaking the average level of consciousness at that time was 90, which is like really,
What's
really
it now?
low.
What's it now?
Now we run around 200.
Okay, so massive difference. It's like doubled, more
Oh,
than
yeah.
doubled.
And so what he would say today is likely, a lot of the core message, I'm sure, would be the same, but it would, and we can't, we have to understand too, he was talking to a very specific culture. But, so Jesus said, I am the light of the world, but he also said, you are the light of the world. And he also said, you are sons and daughters of God, and you are like the angels. And when I unpack that, the original Greek meaning of that, what he's saying is, you are the seed of God. You are God. You are the children of God. You are the inheritors of God, and you are angels, meaning that we are all evolving back into an angelic state. We're all headed there. We're all Christ. We are all in a process of being a fully Christed being, not like Jesus, but like Lori and like Angie and like
Mm,
John and like Sue
mm,
and like Sabra. And we're all in that process. And, another experience I had when I was channeling Jesus, he said, "Don't look up to me." And he said, "I'm your big brother." But he said, "Don't look up to me, don't worship me." And I saw myself standing on his shoulders, and I knew that this was what he desires. He desires that we stand on his shoulders, you know. Um, anyway, there's so much we could unpack around that, but Jesus said the sin. Jesus didn't talk about sin. He talked about ignorance. When he was on the cross and he looked down, he said, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." And the Buddha also said the only sin is ignorance. So just this is a way we can move in the world. And when we use this map of consciousness, we can understand everybody's doing what they know to do, the best that they know how to do with the circumstance, the situation, the cultural conditioning, the parents, the education, the finances. Everyone is doing exactly the best that they can with the package that they have. And if they're doing something cruel or destructive or harming, it's only because they don't have the consciousness to do anything different. And this is why Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing." And this is why the Buddha said, there is no sin, there is only ignorance. So when we understand that, then it's not that we're going to let people harm us, but there's nothing to forgive, right? Because they're just doing what people do at that level of consciousness. Like, a Komodo dragon, hilariously, it calibrates at the level of consciousness of 60, which was also the same level of consciousness as Hitler. Hitler was a 60.
Wow.
And see, and if you know what a Komodo dragon does, basically it sees its prey, it bites the prey. The poison from its bite kills the prey, and then it eats it. So none of us stands around saying, "Oh, those Komodo dragons, they are just so wicked. They're so narcissistic. Why don't they get it? Why don't they do something different?" We don't do that. We just know that a Komodo dragon is doing what a Komodo dragon does. And so, like a lot of us, this is one of the reasons why I love teaching this skill of kinesiology and calibrating levels of consciousness, because if you know someone is a level 100, you quit expecting them to show up for your meditation circle, or you quit expecting them to stop being rageful or angry, because you understand they're doing the best they can at the level of consciousness that they're at.
Yeah,
And it helps you release this false hope, you know.
I think that those are such good points. And I think out of all the things that you said, which there were so many amazing things you said, I hope people are like rewinding and listening to this more than once, because I think it's hard to absorb all of this in one sitting. But when you can get to the point where you truly believe in your heart that there is nothing left to forgive, you experience ultimate freedom.
You
It's
said
ultimate freedom.
it. That's exactly right. Because to get in that green ray space, that I showed on the chart earlier, to really live from the heart, to live there sustainably and consistently, is to live what you just said,
And
which
it's
is
not easy. I'm not saying that this is an easy place to get.
no.
Somebody cuts me off in traffic and I'm like, no, no, we regress a little bit.
Yeah, sure. But, love, what is real unconditional love? It's judging nothing. It's allowing everything to be what it is. It's loving yourself, it's loving others, it's loving all of life exactly as it is, allowing it, accepting it, and not judging anything, especially not the self.
Yes.
And when we live sustainably from that perspective, then we know we've hit this love enlightenment, and then we become really powerful people in the world, really powerful people.
I really love the last part of what you said about that, because I think there are people that think that if you can get to the point where you're just like, oh, love and light, everything's love and light, that you're giving your power away and you
Mhm.
no longer have power. But you just said the opposite. You become more powerful. And I'm not talking about an egoic, I want to be powerful, but it's because every single interaction infused with love has a massive ripple effect that I don't think most people really truly understand.
Absolutely. Like I was just working with a beautiful woman about your age last week. In a session, she is the CEO of a major bank in Europe. We calibrated her level of consciousness together. She's a 500. That means that she is a woman who embodies continually unconditional love. It was one of the funny things she shared with me. She said, "Angie, when my employees have to leave or they get transferred out or have to move for some reason or whatever, she said they cry. They don't want to leave." And she thought that was so strange. I said, "No, that makes perfect sense to me." I said, "Because you're probably maybe the only person they have ever met that exudes and gives them unconditional love."
What
And
power.
and a person like that, that's at that level of consciousness, they might find it odd, because when people come around them, those people might find themselves like suddenly start crying out of the blue, or just wanting to follow them around like a little puppy. There's you when you hit that level of conscious, you have an attractor field, and people can't stay away from you, because I would say most people on the earth have never experienced unconditional love at all. And the
Right.
people that have maybe only had moments of it or glimpses of it, and they can probably name those and tell the story of those moments because they're
Yeah.
so rare.
Yeah.
And so, love is kind of like a trite word, right? But really, that's the goal. Judah says all the time that there are only two choices in every moment. We all know be here now, right? Be present. We get that. So what about being present? Well, because in the present, there's a choice to make. The choice is to love or to be afraid. There is no other choice, to love or to be afraid. All the things we struggle with in our ego, like pride or disappointment or depression or whatever it is, underneath it, that those things are a mask for fear. And so when we choose love, and Judah said many times, if everyone on the planet right now in this moment fully loved and embraced the person in front of them, the world would be instantly transformed.
Wow. Well, I have to share what just happened while you were talking about this. So I have a running counter that runs while I'm doing these interviews. So it won't match up when I actually do the editing, but because of how things are edited, I'm just keeping track of time, etc. I also have a corporate job, so I have to get back to my corporate job in a little bit too. And when you said there are only two choices in every moment, I looked down and my clock was at 33.33.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Powerful synchronicities. So you did mention the Judah collection, and that's part of why we've come together today for you to introduce my audience and people who watch on this channel. And we also talked about Jesus, and there was an embodiment of Christ consciousness that is part of this Judah collective of 350,000 enlightened beings. So will you explain what this collective is and how you were introduced to it?
Yeah, sure. So during COVID, which was right in the smack in the middle of my awakening and my ego undoing and learning and rethinking everything in my life, a lot of meditation. I was sick. I had some complications from COVID. It attacked my heart, and I ended up sick for 2 years. So I was chronically ill. So I sat in a chair basically and just meditated and read enlightened masters, their teachings, and just looked inside and tried to get to the core of the things that were causing me suffering in my ego. So after a couple of years of this, Judah came through like gangbusters, just out of the blue. I never thought I would be a channeler. I enjoyed listening to channelers, some of them for my own growth, but it wasn't something I necessarily wanted to do. And I was dealing with a really big hurt or pain attachment, which was that I wasn't going to be able to be present for the birth of my grandson, because I was sick and they lived far away. I wasn't going to be able to show up. I knew I physically couldn't get there. And so I was just, again, surrendering, letting it go, surrendering, letting it go. And, um, and my husband and I were watching a channeler that night, and he said to me, "You could do that." And I thought, okay, I just didn't have a lot of resistance anymore to anything. And I went to bed that night, and I had this profound metaphysical experience where I talked to I knew it was going to be a boy, even though we had no natural knowledge of that. I knew my grandson was going to be coming any moment. I felt as if he was in my womb. I felt his head pushing down on my pelvic floor. I felt my womb contracting, like your womb does in labor. And my daughter and the sweet little baby in her belly was 4 hours away. So it was just this wild metaphysical experience. And I could talk to his spirit. I knew why he was coming. I knew he was a higher dimensional being. Um, and all these things. So I got up the next morning and I started to type up all that the experience. And as I did that, I heard, "We are Judah. We are a collective of 350,000 angels." I'm just typing all this up. And I thought, wow, I must be channeling. So I read what I had written down to my husband when he came home that night, and we decided we would just sit down and meditate together like we do a lot and just invite this Judah to be with us. And this huge voice came barreling through my throat. They smiled my face like as if I couldn't not smile. I felt like a drill bit going through my third eye area. Like it was really powerful. And they gave this beautiful message. And what was amazing, Lori, is like a couple of hours later, I thought, wait a minute. I feel great. I'm not sick. I had been chronically ill for 2 years, and we'd done everything to try to get me well, was not getting well. And I was instantly healed through that first channel. The energies they bring are just like, they're extraordinary. They're physical, and I get visits. Well, we can channel them anytime, just like on demand. But I get visits sometimes from them that are so ecstatic and so blissful that there's no words to describe it. I had an experience last week. I was in a hotel, I was by myself, out of town. And the only way I can try to explain it is it felt like I had 1,000 little giggling 5-year-old children who just woke up on Christmas morning and found everything that their hearts desired under the tree inside of my body. That's the only way I can explain it. I giggled for 2 hours and I couldn't stop. I could not stop laughing. And they were clapping my hands like this. They were just celebrating. So the joy, is it's there for us. It's there for all of us. And I one of the things I love to say is everybody has their own Judah. Everybody does. Without fail, I help people all the time to meet their angels and get connected in and start having experiences with them.
I love that you said everybody has their own Judah.
Everybody does.
While you were talking, I got waves of goosebumps. And you said something that resonated deep in my soul. And that was about the thing about the smile and how that smile stayed on. When I have been on the other side on my journeys, that is
Uh-huh.
what happens to me
Yeah.
every time. I'm not in my body. My body is laying still. And she can't see me doing that, but I can feel that. You can't not smile because
Yeah.
the vibration is so that we don't have anything that we can compare it to in this earthly
Right.
incarnation. There's nothing. There's nothing.
Exactly.
But it
And
is
like,
such joy.
yeah, and my passion is like helping people get positioned to where they can have experiences like what you're describing and what I'm describing. Because once you have the experience of being intimately connected with divinity, with the bliss, with the joy, with the angels, no one can ever take that away from you. Nobody can convince you it's not true. And nobody can convince you that God's not there for you or whatever, whoever God, goddess is. You know it because you've experienced it.
Wow. That's so empowering for people to know that they can have this if they want to have this.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Angie, we talked about this a little bit before we started doing the interview, but would you be open to doing a
Oh,
channel?
sure. Yeah.
And all right. So I've done this a few times. I've had a few channelers, but I would actually like to ask two things before you go in because I would like to set the intention. The purpose of this channel is to help wake up the collective. So
Okay.
what I would love is these videos live in perpetuity. So who knows how many people this reaches over time, which makes me want to cry. I don't know why I feel very emotional about that. But will you please ask them to communicate a message to the collective? I know there's a lot of fear going on right now. This video is living in April of 2024. There's a lot of people talking about changes that are going to happen, collapses, all kinds of things. And I want this to be about empowerment. And then the second part, I don't know if I'll leave this in this video or not. We may edit it out, making a note for myself. But if there's a message that they have for me and what I'm doing, I would love to hear something.
Okay, dear, let us begin. First, we want to speak about this waking up. Well, first of all, anyone who's here and listening to this information, to this transmission, is in an awakening process. And it might be even the first time you've ever even heard an expression such as this. This is your day. This is your birthday. This is your awakening birthday. Go ahead and allow the beauty of what we are saying and doing and what is going on here, the truth of it to seep into you. Even if you don't really understand it, there's something in your heart that is jumping and leaping and resonating with the energy of what we are bringing through here. And so we would encourage you, keep coming back, keep listening. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, there are so many awakening all over the world. And when it happens to you, you're sure of it because you know that you're different. You see, anyone coming into this conversation is going to leave different than the way they came. You're going to be more of yourself, lighter, brighter, less of what you aren't really. You see, for what you really are, all of you, we're speaking to all of you. What you really are is your divinity in a body. You are consciousness. You are all knowing, all seeing, all wise. Now, life and your experience in life has talked you out of this, talked you out of your power. We are waking you up to it. We are waking you up to who and what you really are. Yes, you have so much wisdom and love and skill. Anything else is simply a layer added on to you by life. There is a beautiful woman in this neighborhood, the neighborhood of this vessel, and she is a homeless neighbor. And whenever this vessel sees her on the street, which is quite frequently, she sees this precious one covered up with many, many, many layers of coats and cloaks and blankets and hats, and she can never see the woman's dear eyes. Yes, because she is covered up with all these layers. And she has been asking us, Judah, what are you trying to tell me through this beautiful neighbor of mine whose eyes I cannot see, who I cannot connect with, who cannot hear me, who doesn't respond to me? And we said to her, well, this is you. This is you. And this is all those that you work with. All of the human family is like this. You have layers and layers and layers of ideas, judgments, criticisms, ideologies, political constructs, ways of thinking, things your parents said to you, all these subconscious beliefs. I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, and so on. And they are like the layers on top of this dear, precious, homeless woman. And you must begin to shed these layers and take your power back. If you feel a pit in the stomach when you're watching a certain thing, turn it off. If you see something on a social media field that makes you feel inferior or less than, turn it off. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Don't allow yourself to be lulled to sleep or lulled into fear or anxiety by the things you think, feel, see, and hear. Understand, you are the creator of your reality. There are people in history who have taught you this. You see, there are people who went through the Great Depression when so many were killing themselves because of the financial disaster and because of the poverty that ensued. But we will tell you there were some who understood they were the creators of their own realities, and they achieved wealth and happiness and abundance during this time of Great Depression. And they did not do it on the backs of others. You see, some of you want to be financially free, but you're not. We're going to tell you why. Your conscious mind is singing the song, I want to be financially free. But your unconscious mind is singing the song of the things it believes, that it's been told, the layers as we spoke of. These are beliefs such as, well, rich people are evil. Look at what they've done in the world. Rich people make their money on the backs of others. I want to be a good person, so I don't want to be rich because I want to be a good person, not an evil person, and so on. And there are other beliefs that you have. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough, and all of these things. And so as long as your subconscious mind is singing a dirge, your conscious mind can sing a happy song all day long, but the two are at odds. And so you must learn how. We will teach you through this vessel, through her teachings, and there are others who have an understanding of this and can teach it. You must begin to instruct your subconscious mind to release these beliefs because you can't move in two directions at once. This is also like two children tied together in a three-legged race. If they want to win the race, they cannot run in two opposite directions. Now, can they? They will only fall down. So many of you are tied to these subconscious beliefs, buried, and they are taking you in the wrong direction, in a wrong direction that you do not want to go. So you must allow your higher self to emerge and reparent yourself, reparent these young, fragile, egoic parts that reside within your subconscious mind in the memory constructs, not just in this lifetime, but other lifetimes as well. You must reparent them and teach them something new. Teach them something new, such as you can be fully abundant. You can be fully abundant, and you can do it in such a way that you are free without overworking yourself, without running yourself in the ground, without using others, manipulating them, or controlling them. that the real flow and real abundance in every level, mental, physical, emotional, and financial, it comes to you when you're fully aligned with who and what you really are and being free, 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 and then setting others free, setting them free. As you use the freedom that you have to set others free, then the abundance flows like a river and cannot be undone. Before this vessel's awakening, she made, and Lori, you are asking for the word for you. This is the word for you, dear. We're speaking it to you, not just to you, but to many of your listeners. So this is the word that you were asking for. This vessel, before her awakening, she could barely rub two dimes together. She had not much to show for many years of hard work and lots of education and many weeks and months and years of 50, 60, 70 hours of work of work in high service to others and high service to children and so on. Yes. But once the awakening came, then she began to understand, oh, I see, I am unlimited. I'm an unlimited being. I don't have to earn love. I don't have to earn my breath. I don't have to earn the roof over my head. I am abundance. I am abundance. I am God. I am aligned with the God that holds the stars in place and provides for every plant and animal on the entire human globe. Yes. And so now she attracts money and she doesn't have to earn it. Much of it is given to her. And the part that she does earn is so effortless and so beautiful and so miraculous that she almost feels like she should give the money back because she has so much fun doing it. And she's very well paid for everything that she does. And not only that, the ones who give the money are joyful and rejoicing to give it because they realize that they're getting 10 and 100 times more than what they expected to get for the money that they invested. And you see, it's a win-win for everyone. And this is the flow that happens as you release what you aren't and embrace who you are and set your purpose. Set your purpose to be free. You must want to be free more than you want anything else in life. You must want to be free more than you want anything else. And when you give yourself permission to be free, to only do what makes you feel happy, which puts that plasters that smile on your face that you cannot let go of. For anything that you do out of fear, obligation, or guilt will put you in a fog. Fear, obligation, and guilt will put you in a fog. So you must begin to be even ruthless in a sense. Not in a way that is unkind, but be ruthless. Speak to the universe, to the quantum field, and say, I'm not going to do anything out of fear, obligation, and guilt. I am only going to do what expands my love and my consciousness and expands the love and consciousness of others. And the rest, I'm going to release it fully. And somehow, some way, those things will find a way of getting done. But not by me.
Is there a message that Jesus has for the planet?
Okay. Yes, we would love to speak to this. I'm Yeshua ben Joseph, the one you know is the Christ. I am your brother. I am your friend. I have taught you the simple way of life and the simple way of freedom and abundance. It is there in my words in red. But you must have new eyes. If you have read these words before, you must allow the scales of religion to fall from your eyes. And you must sit in my presence with these words and allow my presence and the emanation of my consciousness to reveal to you what these words really mean for you. And then I would say to you to know that you embody this. It is you. It is not only I that am the Christ. You are the Christ You are the Buddha. You are the Krishna. I would even say, understand this. I was raised in a Hebraic culture, but just because I was raised in that culture does not mean that I embraced that culture or allowed it to define me. And I also spent many years walking among the Eastern masters, the enlightened masters of India and of the Tibetan mountains. And I learned from these masters as well, yet I did not allow it to define me. I think my own thoughts. I have my own connection with all that is. And this is what I would say to each and all of you. If you want to transform the world, if you want to transform consciousness, think your own thoughts. Trust in the divinity within yourself. Trust in your ability to discern what is presented to you. Any spiritual teacher or master or enlightened one, channeler, whatever you might be listening to or looking to for direction, these should only be confirmation of what you feel in your inner being. But these are not present for you, and neither am I to be gods unto you. You are a reflection of God in the earth, a unique reflection. When I and others speak to you about oneness, I am not speaking of sameness. I do not want you to be like me. I want you to embody my love and wisdom, which is the love and wisdom of Source, but I want you to be like you. And I love you exactly as you are. Lay down your masks. Everyone wears them to some degree. And there's no harm in this, for with some, it is not safe to reveal all of who you are. But when you are with me and when you are in the presence of the divine, lay aside your mask and your self-protection and be vulnerable and allow the love that I bring, the love of Source, to consume you fully, and be afraid of nothing or no one. Do not be afraid of being crucified by any other. When you love not your own life unto death, then you are Christ.
Wow. Yeshua, thank you so much. I feel a loss of words. I feel very emotional after hearing all of that. I just want to thank so much the collective and what you're doing. And the last question I want to ask is, for everybody who finds this video, how do we all connect with you?
Well, I'll let Judah answer that first, and then I'll answer the 3D stuff. Well, it's very simple, my dears. All you need to do is sit with yourself in a meditative state, and it doesn't require ceremony, just requires a moment, a single moment in time. Close your eyes, touch your heart, and say, Judah, and there we will be. Our consciousness will merge with your consciousness if you so wish, and if we have earned your credibility in some way that you feel delighted to invite us. And so you simply call our name, and there we will be, and we will commune with you. We will be in relationship with you. We will speak to you through the gentlest of thoughts, but you will recognize our voice because your thoughts will become full of wisdom and high counsel and insight and reassurance and confidence and power. And you can commune with us any time in this way. And if you don't fully feel yet the fullness of the communion and the tangible experience of our presence, speak to us anyway, and we will answer you. Mhm. Yes. And I do sometimes have the pleasure of hearing people make requests of Judah and hearing Judah answer them. And it's really, it's so precious. I woke up a few weeks ago and I heard a man's voice say, Judah, should I have this surgery? And I
We're
heard,
both crying.
I know. Yeah. I heard Judah say, yes, absolutely have the surgery. It's going to be completely successful. And so it's really sweet. Occasionally, I get get to hear those conversations. But I have so many countless testimonies of people that call on Judah for help, and they get miracles, they get assistance, they get peace. Um, and so I encourage people, some of us just aren't quite at the level of consciousness yet. You will get there where you feel that tangible presence, but just keep asking them because they are there. They are hearing. They showed me recently a young woman she was hurting and frustrated because she felt like the angels weren't responding. And I saw them looking at her through one of those one-way mirrors.
Mm,
She was in a room and she was playing and doing what she was doing, and they were watching her. And I understood that she's not quite able to fully connect yet, but they are still there, and they lovingly care for us. On a practical level, you can drop by the judahchannel.com. We have Judah Channel on YouTube. We have thousands of hours of free channelings just like these. We do a live stream every Sunday night that you can drop in on. You can meet friends. One of the most valuable things that we have to offer that's free is our Telegram family group. It's called the Judah Family International. If you're on Telegram, you can get on that group. And there are people there that will love you, listen to you, support you with whatever you're going through in your awakening process. They give feedback. Yeah, and we have tons of resources, classes, courses. We have our Judah Treats is one of my favorite things. It's super inexpensive, but it helps you to learn how to clear the subconscious beliefs, those layers that Judah was talking about, really getting rid of those from your subconscious mind, because in
right.
my experience, those are the culprit that causes us to suffer.
I agree. So thank you. I'm sure that there are so many people who are going to want to connect with you, Angie, and your channel. And you've put so much time and energy. I don't think people understand what it takes to create massive amounts of content for people to consume. And you're doing it in a state that's free because obviously this is part of your purpose as well.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. And we do have paid offerings too, and we love our staff and we want to reward them really well and bless them. But yeah, we offer lots for free and we love to do that. And thank you, Lori, for this platform. And I encourage your listeners to keep coming back and following you because they will
Aw.
grow right alongside you. And yeah, it's
Thank you
good.
so much. Well, Angie, thank you to you. Thank you for your channeling today. And most of all, thank you so much for what you are doing to help wake up the collective consciousness. It is so needed right now.
I'm so honored. Thank you.
And of course, this channel would be nothing without all the people who tune in to watch. So thank you so much for watching. Next up, check out this playlist of other NDE interviews. Please like and subscribe. It really helps this channel to grow so I can bring you more content. Thank you for watching. I'm so glad you're here.